We want to start tonight with Philippians, the 3rd chapter, verse 12 through 14. Actually through 16, I'm sorry. Not that I have already attained or am already perfected, but I press on, that I might lay hold of that for which Mashiach Yeshua has also laid hold for me. Brethren, I do not count myself to have apprehended, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forward to those things which are ahead. I press toward the goal, for the prize of the upward call of Yahweh in Mashiach Yeshua. I think that sometimes we miss the point and get sidetracked. Through traditional Christianity, we've been taught that once we come to Yeshua, once saved, always saved. We're taught that we have apprehended. And Paul says here, not that I have already attained or I am already perfected. We are to strive every day to bring on to perfection our life according to the Word, our thoughts according to the Word. It is so easy for Hasatan to bring on thoughts that are unacceptable to Almighty Yahweh. And too many times we let those thoughts and those feelings go unconfronted. We need to know that we are to confront all the unsovereignness in our lives around us. Verse 15 says, therefore let us, as many as are mature, have this mind. And if anything you think otherwise, Yahweh will reveal even this to you. Nevertheless, to the degree that we have already attained, let us walk by the same rule. Let us be of the same mind. I think in this book, in Philippians, is very important that we understand the importance of the unity of the body. When I say unity of the body, some may think I mean we agree on everything the Word says and every concept and precept. That's not what I mean. I mean that we have an agreement in mindset that we are all on this road together. We are on this trip together. And yes, we may look at the Word and we may understand differently. I think it's so important that we come together on Shabbat day, where everybody has the opportunity to share what the Father has revealed to us. For the Father gives us one thing. He has made it so that we need one another. We need one another in order to be able to be that perfect body. That we come together. As our body is made up of fingers and toes and hands and arms and legs, the church is made up of different members, different elements, and each one has a different purpose. But the sole purpose is to serve Almighty Yahweh in unity and in shalom and in righteousness. As many as are more mature, have this mind in you. What mind are we supposed to have? We are not supposed to be focused on being critical toward one another. We're not supposed to be focused on, well, I've got it all together and you just need to come to my understanding. You know, that's not where we're to come from. We're to come from the understanding that the Father's given us, and we are to walk in that, and we are to nurture one another along with loving kindness and hoping to bring on to maturity the body of Yeshua HaMashiach in the congregation. That's what we want. We are to have the mind in us to run the race as to attain, not as have attained already. We're not to run this race like, oh well, I've got it made, you know, I'm going to go to heaven, I'm going to be with Yeshua, you know, and I don't have to do anything else, you know. We're to have a mindset of service to Almighty Yahweh. We are to serve Him. We are to give honor and glory to Him. And we are not to run as though we have already attained or we've already done enough to qualify us. We are not to have that attitude or that mindset in us. If we've been touched by the hand of Yahweh through Yeshua HaMashiach, we'll hunger for righteousness. We will desire righteousness. And what is righteousness but the Torah, the rules of Almighty Yahweh, the Word of Almighty Yahweh, at heart and in mind and in spirit, trying with all of our heart to attain that place of perfection, not being discouraged or downtrodden if we fall short somewhere, but be concerned over that we repair whatever area we've fallen short in, that we come in to Almighty Yahweh into repentance with the one thing in mind, to attain the righteousness of Yeshua HaMashiach. We know we will never attain all of that. We know that we will never be perfected as He was. But we are to strive to be perfected. We are not to be content with, I'm just human, you know. No, you're not just human. You've been given the Ruach HaKodesh, the Ruach of Almighty Yahweh. You are no longer just human. You are no longer just flesh. You are flesh and spirit. You are the Ruach in you. And you have been motivated, directed, and corrected by the Ruach. We have been touched by the hand of Yahweh. We hunger for His righteousness. If you do not hunger to please Him, to walk in righteousness with Him, there is something wrong with what you have. And you need to go before Him and seek Him. Father, what's wrong with me? I don't have the desire that you say I'm supposed to have. Father, help me. What's wrong with me? Fix it, repair it. Father, help me. We need to know that this is not wrestling with religious attitudes or church doctrine, but seeking to walk in the righteousness, the covenant of Almighty Yahweh, keeping His commandment, and not just keeping the things of the law or the Torah, but making sure our heart and our spirit is in line with what He says we're supposed to have. You know, when you lay down on your bed at night and you lay there before you go to sleep or you wake up in the morning, things go whoof, whoof, whoof through your body. Well, some of those things you may not want, and you need to deal with them. You need to deal with them. I have had times when I would woke up in the middle of the night that something came to my mind and my spirit, maybe in my dreams, that was not acceptable to me. And I would wake up and rebuke it. Rebuke it. I do not receive it. Satan likes to play with you when you sleep and when you're not aware of what's going on. So don't let that thing be just slip up on you. Try not to be unconscious of what's going on around you. We need to seek the righteousness that only comes with adherence to the Word, the revelation, direction, and correction of Almighty Yahweh. The Father is so faithful to correct us, to instruct us, to direct us. We need to be faithful to adhere to His instructions. I can see as a child, my mother would tell me something and I would say, why? And she'd put them hands on her hips. She'd look at me and say, because I said so. That's how we should be with the Father, because He said so. We don't need to try to figure out why, where, when. Just move. When He says move, move, and do it, because He said so. That's where all of the Torah is. He gives us instructions of what we are to do with our life on our journey here in this earth. How we are to walk. How we are to talk. He has given us such instruction that He's left nothing up for grabs. He has given us instruction in it all. And we can get so caught up in doctrines and everything else, history, geography, whatever, that we miss the whole point. The whole point is that we convert to walk even as He walked, to be even as He is. Hebrews 3:12. Beware, brethren, lest there be in you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living sovereign. Beware. Beware lest there be an evil heart in you, not taking the word of Yahweh as a fact, not taking it as instruction, direction, and correction to you, not believing that His word is your life, and life is in obedience, death is in disobedience. We need to understand, if we believe, actually believe the word of Almighty Yahweh, believe that He is, and that He is the rewarder of all those who diligently seek Him, then we will diligently seek His word, to walk in His word, to be anchored in His word, so that we can be stabilized in His word, and not be shaken about with every wind of doctrine that comes along, because there are so many doctrines out there. The devil is busy trying to wrap all these doctrines up in a pretty little bundle so that you're attracted to it and want to open it up and get into it. The word is to convert, change, walk in obedience. Beware, brethren, lest there be an evil heart in you, not taking the word of Yahweh as fact. The word is reality. Everything in this world is temporal. The Word is reality. Everything in this world will change. This building at one time or another will rot and fall down. But the Word will remain forever. The Word that is caught forth in this building will stand after this building has fallen. The Word that we speak will stand even after we've passed. The Word of Yahweh is forever. It is anchored. It's not going anywhere. It's going to do what it was set forth to do. Many today take the Word of Yahweh as a poetic word, a philosophy, and well, it's a good idea and it's a good way to live, but we don't have to do that. And if we don't measure up, well, there's grace and the Father will forgive us because He knows we're just flesh. No, He has given us every opportunity, everything we need. The Father has not left us lacking in anything. He has made everything we need to walk in obedience and submission to Him in victory. In victory. In this world. He has given it to us. And we need to walk in it. We need to anchor in it. We need to know that this is our roadmap to where we're going. You know, we would think you're an idiot if you start out on a trip in a car that you don't know where you're going. And the map says, we'll go this way, but I don't believe that's right. Well, I'm going to go this way. Well, that's what people do every day with the Word of Yahweh. The Word of Yahweh has set a path for you. This is the way you are to walk. This is the way you are to get to where you're going. You have a destination that you want to reach, do you not? Right. You have a destination you want to reach. We've been given a roadmap. It's called the Word of Almighty Yahweh that tells us how to reach that goal, that destination that we have desire to meet. We have a roadmap how to get there. Yes. It was foolish to say, well, it says this, but I can do this. That's foolish. That's ignorance. It's insanity. You know, we need to know when we see something, we can touch and we feel with our five senses, we believe it. I believe this is a shofar. I can see it. I know it exists. I don't have to have somebody convince me that this shofar exists. I know it exists because I've got my hand on it and I feel it. One of the five senses of the body, we have no problem understanding with them. But it's different with the Word of Yahweh. The Word of Yahweh we have to accept by faith, knowing that Almighty Yahweh is our sovereign, and it has to be as real or more real to us than that shofar is right there that we're looking at. We have to know that His Word is anchored. It is anchored, and it is the very result of everything that He set down before us, that it will bring us to the place where we need to be. We have to come to the place where the things of this world is an illusion. That we know that the things of this world are illusions. And Yah's Word is the only reality that there is in this world. God's Word is reality. It's the only reality that we have in this world, other than His Ruach HaKodesh and His being. We know that the Word is our guide, it's our roadmap, it's our direction. It is an evil heart within us that needs to be replaced by Almighty Yahweh through Yeshua. When we have to realize that the heart that doubts is not just weak in faith, or trusting in Yahweh. It's evil. When you have doubts about the word of Yahweh, when you have doubts about Almighty Yahweh and His faithfulness, that's evil. And you are to reject it, rebuke it. It is totally from the wicked one. And cry out to the Father for a heart of repentance. We need to know. We need to know that we have a sovereign that loves, cares for, and will keep us all the days of our life. We need to know that. We need to understand that He is the only real thing. Him and His Son is the only real thing in this world. Everything else in this world is going to change. This whole world is going to pass away with a fervent heat. But He will remain, and His word will remain. What do you want to stand on? You want to stand on the shaky, sifting sands of this world, or the things in this world, or you want to stand on the one thing that's going to remain forever that we know? The word of Yahweh is going to be forever. If you believe in Almighty Yahweh, if you believe He is sovereign creator of all heaven and earth, then you know that His word is going to remain forever. When everything else falls down, His word is going to be there. We are born with all the weaknesses of the generation before us, and we must be strengthened. The father's sins were passed down to the children, to the third and fourth generation of those who hated Him. But forgiveness for those who love Him. When we come to Him through Yeshua HaMashiach, we are to shed off all the desires that are evil and against the word of Almighty Yahweh. Does that mean they all just fall off? Well, no, they don't just fall off. But we've been given power over all the power of the enemy, over all the power of the flesh, over all the desires of the flesh. But it is a full-time job, looking, examining our thoughts, our behaviors, our actions, and making sure that they line up with the word of Almighty Yahweh. That is to be our priority, totally. We need to seek Almighty Yahweh daily, for our tendency to doubt the things of faith is with us. I mean, it's with us. Satan makes sure that just stays there. You've got that ability within your human nature to doubt, to wonder, to question, but we are to anchor ourselves in the word of Almighty Yahweh, our faith in Almighty Yahweh, knowing that He is, and that He is the rewarder of all those who diligently seek Him, and none of those who halfway seek Him. We need to understand that He is our sovereign, He is our King, He is our Savior. Ezekiel 11:19 through 20. Then I will give them one heart. Now we, in the congregation, are to have one heart. And I will put a new spirit within them. Not many spirits. Notice that's a singular. I will put a new spirit within them, and take the stony heart out of their flesh, and give them a heart of flesh, that they may walk in my statutes, and keep my commandments, and do them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their sovereign. Where does that leave the church today? As we know, the traditional church that says His laws and commandments have been done away with. The heart is hard, it's stony, and it needs to come to conversion. It needs to repentance. And today, how can they repent except they know? How can they know except they hear? And how can they hear except someone go? The Father promised to give us a new heart. And He gives us all the same heart. A heart to honor and desire Him, to love Him. I mean, we can sit and talk about the Father all day. Any of us together. And we will, probably all of us, have some point of context that will differ from the other. But that does not mean our heart is different. Our heart is to please Him and to serve Him and to cause people to know that there is salvation in Him and there's deliverance in Him, and if there's only in Him is there deliverance. There is deliverance and nothing else. He is the only one that's delivered. And that heart is to be in us. That heart is to be in us, that we can't stand the thought of somebody leaving this earth unprepared and busting hell wide open. We cannot have that heart in us. We have to have a heart of deliverance and a heart of salvation and a burden for the lost and a burden for the blind and the deaf and those who cannot hear. The Father promised to give us a heart and to give us all the same heart. That don't mean He gives us all the same understanding. That doesn't mean He gives us all the same ideas. That means that we have a heart to please Him in all that we say and do. To walk in His commandments, to walk in His covenant, to keep His covenant. That truly are not our lives at all. We have surrendered to our lives to Almighty Yahweh. We need to know that the flesh and all the things that goes on in this world, there are things that happen in this world that's pleasing to the flesh, that we like. And there's things that are in the world that actually excites the Ruach within us. And we are to strive to please the Father. And we are to strive to have our life be pleasing thought to the Father. You know, that He looks upon us and rejoices over us, and not with heaviness. To actually surrender our lives to Yahweh, to live this life as He wills for us to live. He wills for us to be lights in darkness. You cannot be a light unless you are in the Word, unless you are the Word walking. We are to be the light as Yeshua was the light. Well, what was Yeshua? He was the Word of Yahweh made flesh. We are to be the Word of Yahweh walking daily so that people can look at our lives and see that this is what we are to do. This is what the Word says. We're the Word walking in flesh. We are to strive to be the Word made flesh. Now, not that we are the Messiah, but we are to strive to walk even as He walked. And He walked in the Word. The Word was made flesh. So that truly are not our lives at all. If we have surrendered our lives to Almighty Yahweh, it belongs to Him. I hear people say all the time, well, I give my life to Yeshua. Did you? Or are you still holding on to it? Are you still walking in the flesh, fulfilling the flesh? Or are you walking in the Word? If you've given your life to Yeshua, you are striving to walk in the Word. You are striving to let the Word be manifested in your life so that all see the work of Yahweh in your life. That is our priority. Our priority is not our job. Our priority is not our home. Our priority is in everything that we do, that we glorify Almighty Yahweh in all that we do. That means that the act of baptism is not just a ritual where you get dunked in the water, go down a dry center and come up a wet center. It's not that way. It is to be that whenever you go down or mikvah, immersed, that you put off that old man, the dead man, you buried, and he is to stay in that grave where you put him, and you resurrect with a newness of life. I mean, do you think it'd be a little bit weird if we lost one of our loved ones and buried him and go out there a few days later and dig him back up? I think that would be awfully weird. I think it's weird when we declare that we have put off the old man, that we have buried him, and then we turn around and look, and guess what? He's right there hanging about our neck. We need to be determined to put off that old man. To put him off. He's dead, stinking, and rotten. Put him off. Ezekiel 11:21. But it's for those whose heart follow the desires of their detestable things and their abominations. I will recompense their deeds on their heads, says Almighty Yahweh. Now, if you have been born again, supposedly, and are still walking in the things that Yahweh forbid you to do, understand that He said, I will recompense their deeds on their own heads. Says Almighty Yahweh, sovereign. And we know that He said that every word that comes out of His mouth will be performed. Not one of them will go undone. We need to understand that these are serious warnings and instructions for our life. We have a tendency as human beings to let our eyes be covered up. Satan is busy trying to cover up your spiritual eyes so that you don't look at yourself realistically, that you live your life in a fantasy. And that's what I believe most of the churches do it today. I believe they are living their life in a fantasy that they've been taught. They don't know that, but they are. But we have been called out of a selfish generation to live righteously unto Yahweh through Yeshua HaMashiach. A not selfish, but selfless. To be willing to be spent. To be willing to be used, if you will, for His kingdom, for His glory, for His might. We've been called out of a selfish generation to live unto Yahweh through Yeshua HaMashiach. Everything we do, we should measure whether it is acceptable and the will of Almighty Yahweh. We have been deceived into the carnal understanding of what's evil and what's good. Many times in the past, we have been deceived by the traditional church, by the traditional doctrines, and we've been misled And evil's been called good, and good's been called evil. But now, today, we have had our eyes opened by the Ruach HaKodesh, and we know that we are to walk separately, not as the world walks. We are to be totally separate, so separate that it is noticeable to people on the outside that we are of a different motivation, that we are motivated by the word of Almighty Yahweh through Yeshua HaMashiach. Our culture has trained us to be comfortable with the things of society that are evil, that's sin. I mean, it's all around us, from the billboards to the television to whatever. You know, there's nudity, there's all kinds of things set before us. And we know that that's not what the Father wants for us. That's not what He wants for this generation, for this society. But yet it's there. And I know that we cannot avoid it totally because we're in the world. But we don't have to entertain those things. Our culture has trained us to be comfortable. And I notice it even with the shows or programs or news. They try to make us accept the fact that homosexuality is okay. You know, it's okay. That's the way we are. We're not to be bigoted and not to be biased against homosexuality or transgender. You know, those things are normal. Hogwash.
Yeah.
They're not normal.
Hogwash.
They're insanity. We can be sure that there is a day of an accounting coming for each one of us. We are going to give an account for the deeds that we do in this life. And if we live every day of our life knowing that one day we're going to stand before the Father and give an account for our actions on this earth, our motivations, and what we were motivated by. We are going to have to give an account for it. Whether we were motivated by the Word, whether we were motivated by the Ruach HaKodesh, or whether we were motivated by the flesh. We are going to have to give an account. 1 Corinthians 2:15. And I, brethren, when I came to you, did not come with excellence of speech or wisdom, declaring to you the testimony of Yahweh. For I determined not to know anything among you except Yeshua HaMashiach and Him crucified. I was with you in weakness, in fear, and in much trembling. And my speech and my preaching were not with persuasive words of human wisdom, but in demonstration of spirit and power, that you should not be in the wisdom of man, but in the power of Yahweh. Paul set a standard for us when we were preparing to address the congregations today. Too many times we have a group of ministers that are trying to impress with their vocabulary, with their words, with their education and understanding, rather than the power and the demonstration of the Ruach HaKodesh, the power of Almighty Yahweh, the demonstration of His power through lives changed, lives being directed. We as a congregation of Yahweh need not focus so much on the eloquent speech. I think we would be in trouble here if we were focusing on eloquent speech, but on the power of Yahweh and bringing power into one another's lives encouraging one another, instructing one another, improving one another. We need to be focused on building one another up with the Word of Yahweh. I'm not talking about flattery. I'm talking about with the Word of Almighty Yahweh. Building one another up. Paul has set a standard for us when we address preparing to address the congregations today. Be focused on the Word of Almighty Yahweh. Too many times we have too many people that are focused on trying to impress man rather than to please Yahweh. We as a congregation of Yahweh need to focus not so much on eloquent speech as do power. The power of Almighty Yahweh to change lives. I looked and had the pleasure of listening to a man today that I went to some years ago. I went to him on 2 occasions, me and Gail and Donna and Brother Ed went one time to Escalado, Mississippi. He's in Oregon now. And to hear that man preach, he has so surpassed. At the time I went down, he was a non-denominational full gospel ministry. And today he is so caught up in the Messianic ministry. I mean, deep in the Messianic ministry. And I have to say, has passed me up. He's passed me up. I need to know what we need to understand, and we need to understand that that is the proof of the ministry that Almighty Yahweh has given us. If we are seeing lives changed, people changing directions and going toward Almighty Yahweh, that is the test of the ministry. Too many times, we have failed and got caught up on things that are not of Almighty Yahweh. Almighty Yahweh's Word comes with power to give life to those who are dying in their sins. They have an opportunity to turn around, to change. That's what Yeshua does. He comes and cleanses us from all sin and gives us a choice. We are no longer captivated and imprisoned by the flesh, but we have been released and empowered by the Ruach HaKodesh to overcome the flesh and to walk after the Ruach HaKodesh in the Word.
Yes, yes.
Almighty Yahweh, His Word comes to give us power, to give life to those who are dying in their sins. We need to focus on life and death. These are two facts that we cannot avoid. They will happen. We will live life until we pass. And we will surely pass. Those two things are going to happen. You're going to live till you die, and you're going to die. And when you die, when you leave this earth, you are going to give an account for your time on this earth. You're going to give an account for what you did. These are two facts that we know that are going to happen. We're going to live till we pass, and then we're going to pass. But we can change the things that happen in our life. Life will go on, whether you submit to the commandments of Yahweh or not, until you pass on. Life will go on. But life can get awful hectic and awful destructive and awful painful without the Word of Yahweh in your life to overcome. It's not the same thing. You know, we should live our life on this earth in preparation, not in preparation for the present, but in preparation for the future, for eternity. We live our life making reservations for our permanent living address. Every day of our life, we are making reservations for our permanent living address. This thing on earth is temporary, it's temporal. Just like everything else on earth is temporal. This thing is temporal. Our life is hidden with Almighty Yahweh in Yeshua HaMashiach. And life begins when you draw your last breath. That's when life begins. We, as believers, know that we stand before a just, kadosh, sovereign, who will judge us according and reward us according to our deeds while here on earth. We need to rescue our time, and we need to make sure that we spend it wisely for Him. The judge cannot be bribed, nor neither is he a respecter of person, as earthly judges are. He don't care how much money you have. He don't care how much popularity you have with men. What he's concerned with is how you lived your life. And that is the thing that we have to understand every day of our life, that we are going to stand before a just and kadosh sovereign. Paul said, I came to you declaring to you the testimony of Yahweh, Yeshua in Him, crucified for you. He died that you might be changed, resurrected again, that you could be assured of the change that would come forth in your life if you put forth the effort, that the change would come. He gives you the power to change your life from defeat, destruction, to victory and overcoming. We need that. We need that in our life, and you can only have that by walking in Him, focusing on Him, giving Him charge over your life. Yeshua went to the state that we could live not only in this life, but in the hereafter. That life had no termination here. What much of this generation don't understand. It is deliverance here in our life on earth. He has not just delivered you for eternity. He has delivered you from death, destruction, and sin here on earth. He has given you power over all the power of the enemy. But it's just like that car that you get in. You can sit in the car all day long and wish you were where you're going. If you don't turn the ignition on, and if you don't put it in gear, and if you don't step on the accelerator, you're not going anywhere. The same way with Almighty Yahweh. If you don't turn on to the Ruach HaKodesh, and if you don't get empowered by the Ruach HaKodesh and Almighty Yahweh, and if you don't direct that life according to His Word, you're not going to get there. You're just not going to make it. Almighty Yahweh has given us the ability to receive His deliverance if we walk in His covenant while we're here on this earth. Go with me to 1 Corinthians, 2nd chapter, 6th verse, and we're going to read through to the 8th verse. However, we speak wisdom among those who are mature, yet not the wisdom of this age, nor of the rulers of this age, who are coming to nothing. But we speak the wisdom of Yahweh in a mystery, the hidden wisdom which Yahweh ordained before the ages for our glory, which none of the rulers of this age knew. For had they known, they would not have crucified the Master of glory. We need to understand today that the devil has lied to us. And much of the traditional church has lied to us and said, well, none of us can walk that way. Yes, we can.
Yes.
We've been given power to obey the word of Yahweh. And we are to focus on walking in obedience. Yeshua is not only the Messiah, but He is the head of Yahweh's church for our well-being. He is watching over the church. He is interceding for us day and night. And He is healing us. Almighty Yahweh through Him is bringing forth healing and deliverance, freedom, liberty in the Ruach HaKodesh, that we can walk in obedience to Him. We hold within us the greatest mystery that man has ever known, the wisdom of Yahweh to us. We have wisdom in us that is made manifest to us by the Ruach HaKodesh. The wisdom of Yahweh is this: we have a king, Yeshua, but not only the king, but a high priest that's making intercession for us day and night. We are His, and He's interceding for us. He's praying to the Father for us day and night. That is ever making intercession for us, for those who possess His name and walk as He walked, seek to walk in obedience. The wisdom of this world does not understand salvation through humility and obedience. They are arrogant, prideful, and they understand through the strength of flesh, but not by the Ruach HaKodesh. It is impossible for man to understand that supernatural power is in submission to Yahweh, except he come to Yeshua and give a new spirit. The Ruach HaKodesh is placed in him. Then he can understand. It's not intended for us to be weaklings while walking here on earth, but powerhouses. We're supposed to be powerhouses for Almighty Yahweh, overcomers. Powerhouses not for carnal matters on this earth, but spiritually enlightening all of life and overcoming the obstacles that's put before us here on this earth. We're not to be weaklings submitting to all the flaws and failures of this earth. The Father never intended for us to be beggars, but ministers of truth, that Yah is salvation and He is life. Matter of fact, it was so important to Him for us to show forth the power of Yah through Yeshua. Not just the power to deliver from hell, but to deliver us through the trials of this life. He said, many are the trials of the saints, but He gave us power to overcome them all. That is where we are to shine forth as lights, with the overcoming power to overcome the obstacles that set forth, that comes forth in our life. There's going to be obstacles. We're all going to have them. But we have the ability to overcome them. And we need to rest in the fact that we have the power through the Ruach HaKodesh, through Yeshua HaMashiach, by Almighty Yahweh, to overcome every obstacle that's thrown in our life, every difficulty that's thrown in our life. We have been given power over it, and we are not to be satisfied to be defeated. Powerhouses, enlightening all to life. Matter of fact, it's so important for us to show forth the power through Yeshua. Not just the power to deliver from hell, but the power to deliver us through the trials of this life. 1 Corinthians 2, 9 through 10. But as it is written, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor entered into the heart of man what things, the things which Yahweh has prepared for those who love Him. It's impossible for us to conceive it. He has so much for us, that we need to reach out to grasp everything that He has for us. It is impossible to conceive all the goodness of Yahweh that has in store for us in Yeshua. The name of Yeshua has a special meaning. That name means Yahweh is salvation. Yahweh is deliverance. Yahweh is salvation. In 1 Corinthians 2, 10 through 12, but Yah has revealed to us through His Ruach. For the Ruach searches all things, yes, the deep things of Yah. For what man knows the things of men except the spirit of man which is in him? Even so, no one knows the things of Yah except the spirit of Yah show him. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from Yah, that we might know the things which have been freely given to us by Yahweh. That's where we are, people. That's where we are. We haven't even experienced all that Yah has for us. He has so much in store for us. All we have to do is follow Him, walking in covenant with Him, loving Him with all of our heart. Our desire to please Him has to overrule all of our desire to fulfill the lusts and desires of the flesh while on this earth. We are on a journey. We are on a journey.
Yes.
And we have to put one foot in front of the other and stay on that path that He set forth for us. A straight but narrow path that enters in through the narrow gate, and that we might spend eternity.